we knew the hits, and I had the hit records, but there were 300 songs on a copyright search that we did that I had never heard. And eBay came along during the course of this mission, and one by one I just discovered dozens and dozens and dozens of my dad's songs that I had never heard before, many of which are in the film.
Hey, here we are inside your Uncle Joe's garage with support from Mike Thompson RV. Special guest today. Will we call you a film director? Is that what we're going to call you?
I'm a first-time filmmaker, so I guess I'm a film director.
Bert Berns comes from a very musical family. Welcome here.
Thank you so much, Joe.
Bert Berns was your dad.
Yes.
And I think, are you the one that called him the most unknown songwriter in America or something like that?
He is, whether I call him that or anybody. He was the most obscure of these great songwriter producers.
And yet, as Keith Richards, who says in your movie, the Bert Berns Story, says in the movie that your dad was the best songwriter there was of a generation. And we'll run down this a little bit later. A Piece of My Heart, Twist and Shout, Baby Please Don't Go, Cry Baby, Brown Eyed Girl. That's just a small sample of the songs that he wrote and or produced.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you were moved to make this movie. He died at an early age.
Yeah, he died at the age of 38 in 1967 when I was 2.5 years old.
And it was a heart condition.
Yeah, he had a rheumatic heart as a child, and that was before modern medicine, so he was living with a ticking time bomb for all the rest of his life.
And he knew that?
Yeah, he
knew. So
it.
Did he live any faster, any harder?
Definitely, that was the driving force in his life, and he actually wrote that into his songs like Piece of My Heart and Heart Be Still, and very autobiographical lyrics.
In the movie Bang the Bert Berns Story, I'll get it smoother as I move along in here. Was that your sister who made mention that somebody made mention in the movie that every song was autobiographical about? There's so many songs about sad things.
That's
cry,
right.
The word cry turned up in so many.
Yeah, and The Encroaching Night, Here Comes the Night, and Cry Baby Cry to Me. I mean, he really did have these heavier lyrics that he wrote into all of his songs.
When did you realize that? Because you were two and a half when he died.
Yeah, I knew very little about him actually growing up because my mother was the star of our lives. She had Bang Records, the second incarnation, and had hits with Paul Davis and Peabo Bryson, so she was really the star of our lives growing up. But she kept his legacy alive in our hearts and told us stories about him as we grew up, and that allowed us to sort of take the ball and run with it once we grew into adulthood.
What was it like for you when you're making this film, Bang the Bert Berns Story? What was it like for you going to sit down with like Van Morrison, who's a very unique individual himself, but his big breakthrough was Brown Eyed Girl, and the things your dad helped him with, Here Comes the Night was another one. What was it like sitting down with, let's just say, Van Morrison to start with?
It was very frightening. But I had interviewed Keith Richards. I'm sorry, I'd interviewed Paul McCartney before that. Keith came after Van. So I got started interviewing those guys' heroes, people like Solomon Burke and Benny King and Cissy Houston, and it got a little bit easier, but going to Belfast to interview Van was quite an experience.
Wow. I admire you for coming through with it. Keith Richards is always a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And Paul McCartney, it was amazing how he was almost royal as you were talking to him, and the admiration they had. Solomon Burke was another one. I had met him years ago, but didn't really speak to him much, and he was very well-spoken, very well-spoken.
Yeah.
Had you known him before you sat down with him?
No, I didn't. He came in and gave us one of our best interviews, and my dad's work with Solomon Burke was really transformative. It was the beginning of uptown soul music and contemporary soul music as we know it, those first Solomon Burke sessions.
So your dad, Piece of My Heart was one of the songs that's focused on a lot here. Aretha Franklin's sister recorded, but of course Janis Joplin did the ultimate version of it, I think, like that. So he started out just for pop music. I mean, he worked with and survived working with Phil Spector.
Yeah.
And what was the song? Was that Twist and Shout?
Yeah.
And it turned into this huge hit. And I love the fact that McCartney said we didn't know anybody else wrote it. We thought it was the Isley Brothers, which is what's so great about great music like that.
Right.
So you're dealing with different kinds of music that goes along. He also was really into blues and the old blues guys, and that's where the soul music came from as well.
Yeah. He really brought Latin rhythms and R&B together into a unique sound. I think that's one of the things that as time goes on, people will recognize my father's legacy, in addition to all the other things he did, was that kind of creation of contemporary soul music and bringing in Latin and R&B and melding them all into one unique
just the songs I mentioned there, there's such a wide variety of things, and knowing the same person was behind it and producing it and all that. He only had like 7-year run, wasn't that what it was?
That's right, and he was a late starter, which is great for me because I'm also a bit of a late starter, but he didn't have his first hit record till he was 31, and he should have been dead by the time he was 31. So once he had that first hit, he just was off, and then he just kept doubling and tripling and quadrupling his success every year.
Another thing that you bring out in your movie, which scared me for a moment or two, if anybody's ever read Tommy James' book about
Me, the mob, and the music.
Yes, and how that enunciates what was going on. Your dad was surrounded by that stuff, wasn't he? And he survived.
Yeah, well, they loved him. He had the kind of charisma that attracted not just great songwriters and artists, but the heaviest guys in the Italian mob. And they came in hard when at the end of his life to protect him when, you know, people were challenging him.
People stealing and ripping off.
Yeah.
That was also very insightful. Were you worried at any point in time you're revealing this stuff, or are they far enough gone that...
Yeah, I wasn't worried because we knew we had to tell this story warts and all, or else nobody was going to believe it. And it also was as the son of the man, I had to kind of not hide the truth, but really pour it out. And the great star of the film, Carmine Wazzle de Noia.
Yeah. Wow.
We were untouchable as long as Wazzle was around.
If you saw him in a movie, you'd think that can't possibly be real.
Yeah.
But it is.
It is.
He is. All right, so the deal is you got a movie, Bang, the Bert Berns Story. There's also a soundtrack that's got 22 songs on it.
That's right.
And some of these are slightly different mixes. Is that possible?
I think there's an alternate mix of Brown Eyed Girl on there.
First thing I saw, because I know the guys from the Wrecking Crew were in here, we've talked with them, I've known them for a long time, and the cost of putting music into film can be outrageous. Of course, you actually own a piece of all these songs, don't you?
I do. The songs, and my father's songs really helped pay for this film.
That's great. Going back through, did you find master tapes and stuff? Were you involved in that end of it?
I did. It all started out, like, we knew the hits, and I had the hit records, but there were 300 songs on a copyright search that we did that I had never heard. And eBay came along during the course of this mission, and one by one I just discovered dozens and dozens and dozens of my dad's songs that I had never heard before, many of which are in the film.
Wow. It was very touching with your mom talking in the film there, too. She saw this, didn't she?
She did. She saw it along the way, and then she joined me for a screening in Miami just a few months ago and got a standing ovation at the end. And it was really something. She said she was proud of me, gave me a kiss, and that was the last time I saw her. She passed away just a couple weeks later.
God, I'm sorry. But she was there, kind of like full circle.
Yeah.
I can tip you guys off to something here. There's a screening. Do you like the sign? I had a very special artist do this. Friday the 5th through Thursday, May 11th at the Lemley in Lancashire. Lemley NoHo 7. That's a name that rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? Lancashire Boulevard. This is right near where I lived when I first came out here, so it must be a good thing. Are you going to be at all these screenings?
I'll be at the first screening and maybe a couple of other ones, but we're having a big opening night on the 5th.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much for taking the time to come in.
So much.
And I understand, too, that you're an accomplished percussionist. If you want to drum us out, did you do the movie?
I did a little drumming in the movie, but it was sped up. Banging on the bongo.
Bert Berns, is this great or what? The movie is Bang, and the soundtrack is Bang, the Bert Berns Story. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you again.
Hey, here we are inside your Uncle Joe's garage, and I know you haven't been inside the garage yet, but I got some great news for you. We've created a mobile version of the Uncle Joe's garage thanks to our friends at Mike Thompson RV Superstores. Like they say, don't miss a moment. And don't miss the mobile Uncle Joe's garage when it comes to a location near you. I'll be looking for you.